been in a pretty good mood today. Um, these last few days when I've signed on to YouTube, just checking like notifications for this account, I noticed a few days ago that there was an upload on my feed from Steven Wilson, um, who is the lead guy for Porcupine Tree, which is a fucking awesome band. Um, I pulled up his page here. It looks like he's been posting stuff the last, was it 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, 11 days ago, 4 days ago. So we're going to go for this one here, Impossible Tightrope, because it's just over 10 minutes long. So compositionally, it should be pretty interesting. Let's click, we'll pause it. Yeah. Fucking advertisements.
Check this out.
Discover family favorites in a blockbuster September on Disney Plus.
I would love to see that.
And
I'm not gonna edit that out. It's just 4 or 5 seconds. It looks very cinematic. I fucking love Porcupine Tree. I think it's classified under like progressive. You could say rock, like sometimes metal. Yeah, it depends on your feelings on certain. I've had people who tell me like, oh, this can't be jazz because it's an electric guitar. It's just like, but it doesn't make sense. It's still jazz. So like progressive rock, progressive metal, like it depends on whatever like you happen to think at any particular time. Everyone categorizes things different. I'm getting into some bullshit. I love Porcupine Tree. I've heard a bunch of Steven Wilson's like solo stuff too, under the umbrella of just Steven Wilson as opposed to Porcupine Tree, and it's always fucking amazing shit. Pardon my language. I'm demonetized. Yeah, I'm just gonna jump into it because if this is pretty recent, I think the last time like I actually like looked up Steven Wilson and like listened to some of his stuff was probably like, 4 or 5 years ago. So I don't know how up to date I am with his stuff. Go. Global warming. I normally might, just because like I kind of want to get out what it's coming to my head immediately. Like those cubes were all kind of like primary colors. Cubes, you think of like building blocks. Earlier, when it was all those like, it looked like a camera was going through a tunnel, but it was shapes that were kind of changing, like triangles into equilateral triangles into like other four-sided quadrilaterals. That's what I'm thinking of. It was very much like you're going into a prism. So all the light that you're getting turns into those primary colors, the building blocks. So it's like viewpoints. You're going into a prism, and what you're seeing are the different colors. Then when it broke up, it felt like all those pieces of the cubes, those rocks, kind of like mimicked the glaciers at the beginning. So like I'm kind of that's the basic understanding I'm having of this so far. Because again, that tightrope, it makes me think of like glaciers, global warming, like the end of the world, or that kind of thing. So that tightrope, that balance. Go. Elevator? Glass elevator. Willy Wonka. So that sterile kind of parking garage looking thing contrasting with this nature, open field, water. Oh no.
Terrifying.
Postmates.
This is your brain on Nashville Hot Chicken.
music isn't necessarily telling me anything. I'm going more along the narrative of what the video is kind of telling me, and it seems like the music, the song is more meant to be a journey than it is to be a message. So those cubes that you had at the beginning that were like those primary colors, the building blocks that I said, when they went into the ocean, you had those same kind of color coding, but it was more spheres. Which, if you're changing from at the beginning, it was more of like a glacier ice kind of thing, three dimensional cubes. Then you change from ice to liquid, and you're in the water. Then there are more spheres. So it's a change in perception. Um, yeah, because if the beginning, when you're going through that kind of tunnel, it's like you're going through a prism. So primary colors, everything's about light, and the silhouettes of the shapes of the person on the tightrope. The tightrope, it's like a being of light. So it's essentially that's kind of what life is you are this wave, you are this light, and everything you see or experience depends on your surroundings. So if you're in this cold arctic place, everything's more structural, everything's more like that parking garage. Then once you view things more liquid, you go into the water, everything becomes more spherical, like the edges get worn away. So depending on your surroundings, your viewpoint changes, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting, because this is a journey. So it's not even just that, it's about you're constantly going from one place to the other. This seems more tropical. Earlier it was more, again, ice oriented, which is more desolate, and this seems livelier, the green trees and everything. So it's a process. You moving from one to the other constantly. It's a tightrope. It's the seasons change. Nothing is ever the same. So yeah, a prism. If you have a diamond or something that you're looking at, and you're constantly just like moving it a little bit to the side, you're seeing different aspects of it. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting. And the lighthouse, that kind of metaphor again, like light. Uh, Lots of water, ice, sea kind of imagery. So there being a lighthouse, especially there in the center, a lighthouse is supposed to be something where it tells you when the land is coming. It's not necessarily a destination, but it's something that guides you and tells you where to steer away from or where to go. So, yeah. I didn't want to pause it again, but so at the beginning there was just like a singular tightrope, and it's about like everything seemed really grayscale, and the thing that stood out were the cubes of primary colors. And so as the video has progressed, the colors have expanded more and more and more. And in the last like couple of minutes, the singular tightrope kind of branched out and became more like endless possibilities. Like you can go from this tightrope to any destination. And here it looks like there are multiple like silhouettes of light people. So the tight ropes are now connecting every person, and the way the primary colors have expanded into the sky, it's more like different stars and different solar systems. There's every person is their own constellation, and so now each one of these tight ropes is a connection from person to person. It's creating that like societal kind of like aspect. Um, I have more, but let's get back a little. Go. So at the end there, it goes back to the motif of glaciers and everything being frozen, but it looks like the glaciers have melted down substantially, and that's where the all those pyramids, you view them from a different vantage point, and they become those cubes that you saw initially. So it's all about perspective, and if everything's about connection, from a tightrope connecting one to the other, person to another, um, if there's a breakdown in the glaciers, global warming, or if that's a metaphor for a breakdown in people becoming more solitary and kind of breaking away from the connections that they had, becoming more lonely. Um, huh. Because everything's a matter of perception. So if you see the world as falling apart, it could be viewed as something where the connections that you feel to people are falling apart, or it's because we're all becoming so much more separate and alone that the world seems like it's breaking apart because it's a collective kind of thing. So, in order to restore the balance from the tightrope, it's more just you balance personal feelings one for one person to the other. You have to be more cognizant of that and not separate yourself, because if you become too, not necessarily selfish, but if you just focus on yourself and forget about other people, that's like foregoing the world around you. And so the world around you begins to fall apart if all you care about is yourself. So the tightrope, the impossible tightrope, could just be balancing not just the things that are pertinent to you, but making sure that you care about your surroundings and the connections that you have to other people. Because, like, if you have a grid, if one portion of the grid fails, like, the whole system could fall apart. So you want to make sure to maintain everything for the health of the greater good. That's it's sort of what I'm getting from this. There's a lot of like imagery that made me think like global warming and like fossil fuels, that kind of thing. Not necessarily exclusively fossil fuels, but you think global warming, you jump to that. But the tightrope made me think like metaphor of like connection, and like people to people. How's that song go? People were people, so why should it be that we should be? God, the Perfect Circle covered it. It's a Depeche Mode song. People are people, so why should it be that we? But yeah, like this is about. It makes me think about connection. Everything is connected. Everything's part of a web. Interesting. That horn solo around the 6 or 7 minute mark. I know it has nothing to do with any of this narrative that I've been talking about, but it just made me think of Lost Boys and how there's that one shirtless dude who just on the saxophone randomly for no reason. Like that's an 80s kind of thing. But yeah, the music itself didn't necessarily steer me in the direction that I wound up going into. It's more the narrative of the video, and I dig this a lot. It's so good. Uh, yeah,